So today we're going to do the Gwent Monsters tier list again. This time we're going to do the gold cards. I'm going to record these back to back, but probably upload them on separate days, just so I have a fresh in my mind where I put the bronzes and such. So let's get into it here. Again, our tiers are going to be excellent, so these are played often. I'll actually put in here, or deck defining. So potentially if a card isn't, like say the card's not top tier, but by itself it can make a deck, we might put it up in here even though that deck's not the strongest thing. We'll see how we feel about it. After all, this is just my opinion. I'm not ranking them within the tiers, although I might mention something about where one, like maybe this card's super good, so I'll say it's the top of good tier. We've got the excellent cards, they're played often or deck defining. We've got good cards, which are played like they're just good. We've got okay cards, they're playable, but usually not the optimal choice. So these are like things you like pick like, oh, for bronze is like pick one of, or for gold, like sometimes you consider it as an option, like a meta tech or something. Niche are cards that don't usually see play, but they have their moments. Like sometimes it's like fantastic meta choice, sometimes say it just makes a deck work but doesn't like define the deck by itself. I don't know, we'll see what goes in there. These are like really not as many of these. We have weak cards that they probably aren't played and they need a buff to be seen, and we have bad cards probably need multiple buffs. I changed this from the bronze category because the bronzes, if you multiple buff any bronze, it's probably going to be good. But with the golds, they're a lot higher usually base provisions, so you might need multiple buffs. And then we have memes. So these are unplayable other than for fun. So this is the tiers. Try and make it a little faster than the bronzes, and let's get in here and see what we're looking at. So first up, we have Abaya. These should be alphabetical, I think, this time. So Abaya is just like, Abaya is niche. By the way, niche is, I put it here, but niche doesn't mean it's worse than okay and good. And I just felt like putting it in the middle because it's kind of hard to define, right? These things are, they go in a certain deck. So Abaya's in here because it's niche. Some decks want to use it to trigger Arrakis Queen to make triples of stuff. And for that reason, I think she goes in niche. The Thrive on her is almost completely irrelevant. No one plays her for the Thrive ability. And if it goes off, you're kind of laughing because they've already done the damage, really. Then we have the Acid Spit. Acid Spit's okay. It's not the best card, but it can set up a Glusty Warp. The problem with Acid Spit, it's really vulnerable to lock. It's really vulnerable to the opponent having consumes. It's vulnerable like self-damage. It's okay, but usually doesn't pay off as much as you'd want. Then we have, this one's going to hurt. This one's going to hurt. How we've added Striga. So this is the Predator Consume a Token. One of the most popular decks I've ever made was the Adastriga strategy where you consume the opponent, where you play thing from the box, or what is it? The box that spawns a Djinn. Let the opponent get the thing from the box, and then you play Adastriga and consume it. It's one of my favorite combos ever. But let's be honest here, she's a meme card. The opponent having tokens is not consistent enough for her to just generally be good, even if you were to buff her. So unfortunately, I think she stays down here. But there is a lot of fun to be had with her, which is not saying you can't play meme cards, because we've done it for sure. Then we have Alpha Werewolf. I think Alpha Werewolf fits into the excellent tier. Alpha Werewolf is the reason you play Werewolf. Alpha Werewolf is like the big finisher for the Werewolf Fruits Control, Fruits Midrange, whatever you want to call it deck. It's super good at buffing up things in that deck because you're a huge finisher. And if there was a Monster Beast deck that was viable, it would be in it. But I think, actually, it might just fit into good. I think it's just good. People can cut this. It's on the border. We'll just leave it here for now. We have Arrakis Behemoth is okay. The problem with Arrakis Behemoth, and I think you heard me say this in the bronze one, is that Arrakis Swarm without Tatterwing is worse than Arrakis Swarm with Tatterwing. However, this is one that can kind of be played in the Tatterwing one if you want to sacrifice the 2 power, but it's generally not that amazing. It's a row swarming payoff card, but it's like kind of niche as a payoff card. But it does spawn 2 guys and buff them right away. I don't think it's usually worth it. Arrakis Queen is one of the strongest monsters cards in the entire game. There's so much stuff you can do with her. Play Death Wish, get value off of something like a Dettlaff. You can just play it even on just like Succubus, or Succubus. You can just play it on any Death Wish card for good value. You can play it in Arrakis decks because you can trigger a Death Wish maybe on Endrega Eggs if you're being funny, and then spawn it, and it makes a the thing that spawns 4 tokens. You can use this in the triple decks, and with Abaya, you can just use it on your Caltolis, although that's really funny if you can Caltolis yourself twice. You can also just use this on what you'd really use it on, like 2-go, on stuff like that, on Plague Maidens for double poisons, on things for Witch's Sabbath. It's so flexible and so good that it has to be up here. Next up, we have Ardgaith, a very good Frost card, but we won't call it the deck-defining card. It is really good in Frost, though. The Echo means you got so much Frost out, it gives all your guys value. It's constantly damaging the enemy on both rows, pulling out your Winter Queen. But I think it's more of a good card rather than like a deck-defining card, because there's other ways to get Frost, but it's like the best way to get Frost, generally. This thing. So for those of you who don't know, let's just pull up this card's ability real quick here. So if we look at Endrega, gotta make sure I get this. Oh, that's right. This is a Kikimor, actually. We'll get to the Endrega one shortly. Oh, this is the Behemoth. It's Arrakis Behemoth. This Armored Arrakis. Behemoth's the one we just did. So Armored Arrakis. If there's another card on this row, I'm just pulling this up because I'm pretty sure most of you have never seen this card in your life. So Armored Arrakis. Deploy if there's another card on this row, lock self. I knew what this card did, but I don't remember its name. Names sometimes evade me when I'm doing these videos. And timer 3, if the row is full, boost self by 12. So you have to play on an empty row, and then after 3 of your turns, so one timer goes off right away. So you have 2 more of your turns to make the row full. And if it is full, you get a 17 for 8, which is amazing. Like 17 for 8 is amazing. It's above, well, I want to say it's super amazing. It's like, it's really good. Let's go with really good. It's really good payoff. However, this condition's too hard to make. Arrakis Swarm spawns drones on random rows, so sometimes you'll have a card on the ranged row, and you play as an organic, and boom, it spawns a drone melee. This card is really annoying to use, and it is just too frustrating, and the timer is kind of too short for it to get value. It's just never worth it. This thing goes straight into meme as well. He's not going there. Really, the timer being so short and the deploy locking us really hurts it. But you can unlock it, to be fair. You can like Pelor this or whatever. But there's just way better stuff to do. Oberon Conqueror going straight into the excellent tier. Super strong card for Frost. This is your big Frost payoff. You can tack into whatever you want to make from your starting deck. You can play your Wild Hunt Riders if you've left them in your deck the whole game and play them for like 19 points at tempo. It's an engine. It boosts all of your other Wild Hunt cards. It's super strong. Fantastic card in Wild Hunt. Then we have Bloody Mistress. This is going in good. The deck, you can make triple Bloody Mistress with Arrakis Queen, but I'm saying Arrakis Queen is the one that makes that not Bloody Mistress because there's way more things you can do with Arrakis Queen. So we're going to put this in good because of Arrakis Queen, or does that make it niche? No, we'll go okay. It's okay. You can play this, but usually you're going to use it on like 2-go or something, the Arrakis Queen, I mean. It's okay as an option for an Arrakis Queen deck, and it's I want to say weak for relics or fruits or something. When this thing came out, though, and the Transform worked differently, and Caranthir worked differently, well, then you could have some experiences. But now, at the moment, it's okay because of Arrakis Queen. If you're not playing an Arrakis Queen deck, it's probably down and weak. Brewis Ritual is a super, super strong card. Thins your deck by 2, pulls out your Death Wishes. You can trigger it again with Urn of Shadows. Same thing with Arrakis Queen, Urn of Shadows. We're going to make a tier list of the stratagems and stuff separately at some point, so we're not including them here. So this is super strong card. I don't know what else to say about it. It comes down, you eat it, it brings out guys from your deck. It's usually like 12 to 13 points on the board right away, and you thin the deck by 2, and you can do it multiple times if you want. It's amazing. And then we have what's this thing called? Brewis herself. She is niche. So Brewis, you don't play for Brewis. You play Brewis because you have to play Wispus and kind of Weavus as well, but yeah, you rarely use this thing for its actual ability. You usually just play it, and then you want to play it before the other ones, and sometimes you can consume a poison card or something. So it's niche just because of the trio. Caranthir, where do we put Caranthir? Oh, Caranthir, where do we put you? You're an enabler, aren't you? What do we think about Caranthir? I'm between these two. It's amazing because of the things you can copy, and having copies of them is really good, but it's pretty much limited to Koshei, potentially Sheetrel, Ruin. Really, Koshei is the only one you really see, and I think we'll say it's good. I think we'll say Caranthir is good. Actually, you know what? Yes, this is perfect. Caranthir is a niche card. Caranthir is good with those specific things. Outside of that, it's not good. Yeah, I like Caranthir and niche. I like that. Golden Child. Golden Child is the big payoff to Frost. Let's stand next to Conqueror. You can get this guy for well, I have gotten this guy played for 32 points before. That is the ceiling. That's if Aridin did 3 damage for 5 turns, and you played him with Frost opposite for the +1 boost. Usually this thing plays about 23 to 25 points, 20 points, which is, think about that, that's amazing point value on an 8 provision finisher. So yeah, it goes right up here. Next up we have Cave Troll. Cave Troll's good. It's good for a couple reasons. One, it's an Ogroi, so you can play it in Ogroi decks to protect King Trum. You can play it in your Arrakis Queen decks to protect your Arrakis Queen. You can just play it in Defender deck, like whatever you want Defender, it's fine. So I think it's a good card, but you won't see it in everything. Next up, we have this thing, Crimson Curse. Crimson Curse is okay. Let's mention the problems with Crimson Curse right away. The first problem is Renfri Vampires is the best version of Vampires, and this is not a unit. So you cannot play it in that, which means you're playing a suboptimal vampire deck. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. However, you can play this in Tatterwing, you can play this in Arrakis Swarm as an organic, and it also just spawn 2 tokens. So it's not too bad. This thing's alright. In pure vampire, if Renfri Vampires wasn't better than the other vampire decks, this would definitely be at least in good. But because it is, I can't really put it there, I don't think. It is decent value though, but you don't really, even though you can play it in like Arrakis decks, they like to play Vigo's Muzzle or something instead for control. So I think we'll leave this in okay for now. Dagon, oh yeah, growing up by the card, you always you play this, then you play this. That's the play pattern for Death Wish. Yeah, so Dagon is incredibly strong. It comes down for 8 points. It infuses guys in your deck. If you eat everything it infuses, it's giving you 10 more points. That's 18. If you bring back the one from your graveyard, it brings back another copy himself. That's 8. He gives everything you play with Death Wish +1 point. You can do the infinite Dagon loop with him if you want. If the opponent doesn't have to answer to Dagon and you're round 3 and it's 5 or more turns, or yeah, more than 5 turns, and it goes off, you win the game pretty much. So he's super strong. He's going up there. Next up, we have Detlef. Detlef is good. I don't think I put him in top tier. So I think there's some other cards that are a little bit better, but he's definitely a good card, definitely a strong card. Good vampire. Renfri loves this thing more than this because it's a unit and it got buffed recently, so extra power. If you can get its ability to go off and actually spawn a token, it's really nice. It puts out 4 turns of Blood Moon. That's worth about 15 points, assuming there's nothing else with his value if it goes off over time. So it's pretty good. He's good. He's definitely good. I wouldn't put him in the super top tier. Detlef, the other Detlef. So this is the one, the Death Wish one. I'm going to put him in good. Prior to the Golden Necker Necromancer's Tomes decks, or like the Morntar Harpy spam decks taking over the Death Wish decks, he might have been higher. But for the moment, he's still really strong. You can eat him with the Arrakis Queen. He's worth 18 points. You consume him 3 times. That's pretty good. It's just good. It's a good Death Wish card. Runestone. Runestone's a pretty meme card. The only time you see Runestones off of Rune Mage making it, you're never gonna play this thing yourself, and it's not. No, it's not it. Then we have the Lock. So Lock is I say Lock is niche. The thing with Lock is, unlike something like the Witcher locations, where all the Witchers, like you're playing a Witcher deck, you include it, and it has a bunch of options, or like what's it called? The what's the Squirtle one? That's another Witcher one with the movement. Like it's okay. Or like the Skellige one where you can just play for value in certain decks for the healing. This one you really need to have a reason to play it, and the reason to play it is almost always you want a 3rd Succubus for your Death Wish deck. Other than that, you don't really see this. The moving to the strongest thing to the top as an order can be okay, and spawning the drones can be okay, but if you're playing a swarm deck with the drones, the artifact itself takes up a slot on your board, which is annoying, and it doesn't feel good. Like you only play this for the Succubus. So because you play it with Succubus, I'll put it in niche, I think. But don't think it makes it into okay, because the other choices like Chimera, like you don't play Tatterwing Chimera, right? Like you play Tatterwing, you don't play Chimeras. You could make a Chimera off of this, but you'd rather have like a removal special instead. So I think we'll leave this in niche. All right, I said we'd be back to Endregas. How many of you know what Endrega Queen does? So it has consume an allied unit and gain its armor, or gain armor equals provision cost. So this kind of hurts. If it was equal to its power, maybe you could use the Kikimor Worker. And it has barricade at the end of your turn, damage self by 1, and spawn a drone. So the idea here is that this is a drone spawning engine that pings its own armor off to make drones. In concept, this sounds fine. What isn't good is that you have to, if you were consuming a drone, it has 0 provisions, so that doesn't work. It would be nice if this was power, so you could eat a boosted drone and spawn more drones. But at the moment, if you just play this by itself, it plays for 8 for 6 with 2 tokens. That's not good. And it's also annoying that the deploy is mandatory, so this thing usually goes tall, and making your engines really tall is a good way to get them removed and lose even more value. So this is weak. One thing I could see for this though is maybe if you gave it a little power, so it would actually have like a decent amount of value. Like maybe this played for like, maybe there's like a 7 or an 8, so it was a tall card that also spawned the drones as a side effect. Might be see more play, but even if it's got buffed, I think this is bad. I think this needs like more than one buff. Aridin. All right, Aridin. I don't want to just fill the top row with frost cards, but we'll put him in good for now. Yeah, we'll put him in good. He's really good though. So Aridin gives you extra damage on your Frost. He puts out Frost for 2 turns. If you put it opposite him, which is what you always want to do unless you Frost somewhere else, he plays for 8 right away, and then he gives you 2 turns of Frost, which is 4 damage, and usually his dominance will make that an extra point of damage on each one. And usually the opponent has to kill this because an extra point on all your Frost damage adds up really fast. Like say you're in a 5 turn round, that's 10 extra points if they've got a guy in each row. So and the other really nice thing is this lets you reach thresholds you don't reach otherwise. So say they've got, what happens a lot of times, the Frost damages an engine down to 3 or something. Then you're like, oh, it's down to 3. I throw Aridin out. Now my Frost is 3. Kills it surprisingly. It gives you nice value. So he's definitely really good. Frightener. Technically it's just Frightener Sleep, right? So after 3 of your own guys die, this 9 provision artifact turns to a 12 power immune unit. Now, that's not good. It's really not good. It's too expensive. Like this used to be viable as a finisher card, or like you play in a no unit deck, but the no unit decks aren't as great as they used to be because you used to be able to actually play 0 units in your deck. Yeah, it's just way too expensive at the moment. So I'm not gonna put it in meme because if this thing was like 7 provisions or like 6 provisions, for example, like it would be okay. But like what you used to do is just play 3 Arrakis drone charges from the leader, and then play Glusty Warp. Boom, Glusty Warp eats the drones. This thing flips over, but it's too expensive for that at the moment. Like She Troll's also 9. She Troll's a bigger ceiling. Next up we have Gels, not Gels, Gaten, not Gaten. That's the Scoia'tael card. What the heck is this thing called? Oh, we can find out. 6 provision in monsters. So this thing does the 1 damage, 3 if the target is bleeding, and then if it kills it, it's got Deathflow boost self by the base power, it's nice when the effect goes off. Oh, it's Gale, not Gales. Okay, got it. But yeah, it's nice when this effect goes off, but Vampires isn't like Frost. Like Frost, you're gonna pretty frequently have stuff getting hit down because the Frost does 2 a turn. Vampires bleeding does 1 a turn, so it's kind of hard to get stuff down to 1 power. 3 power is pretty reasonable, but this thing's kind of niche. Whereas if it goes off, it's fine, but you can get some big hits on it and it's funny, but I don't think it's the best vampire card. Would I say this is weak or would I say it's niche? I said it was niche like a second ago. I meant like niche in the vampire deck. What's the issue with this thing? If it does 3 damage, you're kind of fine. The problem is 6 version slot. You're kind of arguing with Flutters. You're already playing expensive cards like that. You've got Queen of the Night. I think it's a little weak at the moment. We'll go with weak. I don't think it qualifies really for the niche tier. Next up, we have Gales himself instead of Gale. This card is very good. Actually, we can put him in top tier. Gales is super strong. So he's excellent. Excellent card. The reason why he's so good is being able to play any Frost. In Frost, you play any of the cards from your deck pretty much, which is super strong. Tutoring's always amazing. And then you also play this in Tatterwing Arachas Swarm to pull out your Lara and your well, not Lara. When you use Lara, you then use this to pull out the Ardgaith. Oh, does that mean Ardgaith goes up here? Ooh. Nah. Nah, I don't think I want to put Ardgaith up there, even though because of it. We'll give Gales the thing. No, he's super strong. Just tutoring cards is amazing. The fact that it's in Tatterwing Arachas Swarm, and Frost means it's not in every deck. Because not every deck wants to play Wild Hunt cards. But Naglfar is a Wild Hunt card that's a generic tutor some decks play. So I think we'll put him up here. Because those decks are actually really strong monsters decks. Belt of Giant Strength. Nope, that's the Heroescape token. What's this thing called? Girdle of Giant Strength. Shout out to Heroescape there. Any of you guys buy the new Heroescape? They reprinted the new ones this year, actually. Last month. Anyway, onto the actual game we're playing. This thing is not very good. The problem isn't with the card's value. Like, technically it's a 20 for 12, which is fine, right? Like 20 for 12, it's pretty reasonable. The problem is you're going extra tall on a deck that already goes tall. And that's just really vulnerable to removal. Tall punish and resets, so it's weak. It's not good. Then we have Glusty Warp. Glusty Warp's niche. Oh, I think she's niche, or is she excellent? She's either niche or she's in here. I don't think she's that common at the moment, but you can definitely play Glusty Warp decks. Put her up here. Because Glusty Warp decks existing means that she's like kind of the reason for it. We'll call her the excellent card. Just because of that, like she makes her own deck defining part here. Even if your deck's not amazing. But you can do a lot of stuff with Glusty Warp. You do a bunch of tokens, it's amazing. You can acid spit a bunch of things down, even though it's not usually the way you want to do it. And it's really good. But yeah, she can make her own decks, so we'll leave it up here. We have Goliath. Goliath's fine. Like, you play it because it's an Ogroid and it's pretty tall. I don't think I'd call him good, though, because he only goes in Ogroids just because he's another tall Ogroid. And you can get punished from this guy sometimes. Although, back in the day, we made a mill deck. You can actually mill the opponent out with Goliaths, which is, I mean, it's something. I don't think it's good, but it's pretty funny. So we'll leave him up here in okay, I think. He's okay as a card. Nah, I think we'll put him here just because of Ogroids. We have Haunt. Haunt is worse than Dagon. Significantly worse than Dagon. But it's still a good card. It's 13 provisions now. We'll call it good because Vi likes this thing. V, whatever his name is. Because of that, I think we'll leave him in good. Haunt's like good. You see it in the V decks. You can play it instead of Dagon, but usually Dagon's better. I want to put it in okay. We'll leave it in good because I haven't experimented with it too much after its buff. We have Hive Mind. Hive Mind is an excellent card. It's super strong. It spawns an engine. It gives you carryover through 3 carryover cards, actually, if you want to do it that way. It gives you a whole bunch of value from the 4 bronzes, like you can just play multiple engines in a turn. It's just amazing. Hive Mind's so strong at the moment. Tatterwing loves this thing. Arachas Swarm loves this thing. Anything that wants to play the Arachas Swarm leader loves this thing. So it's definitely good. Eider's pretty good. So you can play this in the triple Eider deck with Arachas Queen. You can just play this in the non-Tattering Arachas Swarm. You can make decks based around this in Sheetroll because you spawn a bunch of dudes and eat them. Like, it's got a lot of uses and it's pretty good. Imlerith is pretty weak actually at the moment. It's not the worst thing because if you discard a tall card and draw a card, like thinning and drawing is good. And the fact that he boosts is pretty nice. But usually you want your thinning to be like not this expensive, but he can be pretty tall. But I just think at the moment he's not. He's a little weak. I don't want to put him. Is he worse? He's definitely worse than those. We'll put him in bad, I think, actually. Yeah. It's not the worst thing. It's definitely better than these two. But I don't think it's like these can still be played, kind of. Imlerith's Wrath is a good card. It is a good Frost card for killing an opponent's unit. And actually, you don't have to play this in Frost. This is actually just like a pretty good card in Ogroids, for example. Because often enough, if you play Ogroid, you're going to have like a 15 power guy out, and doing 15 damage is pretty good. So People don't do that, but it is an option if you want to stay in like a little more control, but usually like they play Erendite Heatwave Muzzle instead. But uses like pretty much just a Frost card, although technically you can use it other places, so it's alright. Well, I wouldn't say alright, it's pretty good to have it. But it's not amazing. Imperial Manticore. Manticore is niche. Let's call him niche. No, he's not niche. He's okay. Manticore's okay. You play him in the Golden Necker Deathwish deck because you have a lot of extra provisions because you're playing so many like bronzes and stuff that you want to have 2 copies of to bring back from Necromancer's Tome. And since you're in Golden Necker, you have a lot of extra provisions because you highest thing in your deck's 9 or well, it's a 10 because Golden Necker is 10 itself. But you have a lot of extra provisions. So you can play a couple expensive gold Deathwish cards. And the best gold Deathwish cards under 10 provisions are like Plague Maiden, this, Maruna. There's actually not many options, to be honest. Penitent to pull out something else. So for that reason, it's okay, but in most Deathwish decks, you won't play it. But in lower ranks, I'm sure this thing's good because people don't play around it. Whenever you play around this thing, it's a lot worse, though. Jotun, where do we want to stick you? You're up here somewhere. I want to say good. Jotun's good. You play it in Ogroids, it's a 15-point play, but you have to play Ice Giants, which feels bad. But you can also play it in like Frost as an option if you want to have like a big guy for dominance. You can play it in different decks. You can play it. I mean, I've seen people play it in Tatterwing because it has 1 base power, but then you have 1 power Ice Giants. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a good big point slammy guy. We have Katakan. Katakan is, how do we say this? I would say, so what is it? 6 spawns a guy, and then every 3 bleedings it spawns another guy. And the guys that spawns are 3s. No one plays this. I mean, actually, a couple people do play this, let's be fair. What I think is close, no, it doesn't belong in this tier. It's down here. And let's be honest, this thing goes up here. This doesn't belong in the same tier as these cards. Yeah, we will put this up here because it is kind of pretty good. But yeah, as far as the actual card we're actually creating at the moment, which is our dude, the Katakan, it takes time to get its effect, and it is like a swarmy effect, but vampires don't really like swarming. It usually does take about 3 turns to get another one, unless you have like Blood Moon out or something, or you have multiple Neckarats or you're leadering. So it's usually about 3 turns to spawn a 3 power token. It's about 1 a turn, and 1 a turn engines on the gold's pretty bad. If you're getting it, I wouldn't say you can get 3 bleedings out per turn. If you're getting 2 bleedings out per turn, like an ideal world, getting 1.5 points a turn on this, that's not good. Like, that's not good enough. Really. We have Kayrin. Kayrin is pretty good if you're playing a Deathwish deck. The fact that has immunity is also kind of nice as a finisher because it avoids things like Heatwave, as the last say. So, playing to some other cards like Scorch, though. So I think it's good just because the Deathwish decks like them. Stick these guys together. Yeah, I think that's just why. I think it's just pretty good overall. Yeah, I'd say it's good. We have Keltalist. He's going to top tier because he's a deck-defining card. There is a Keltalist deck where you just play Keltalist and you Witch's Sabbath it, and then everything starts dying, and you hope your guys that are really tall don't get punished by Tall Punish, and you don't hope they don't squirrel your graveyard. Or Zavia your graveyard would be even worse. But I would say this thing, since it makes the Keltalist deck, he's going up here. Then we have Kikimor Queen. Kikimor Queen's okay. Like, Kikimor Queen is not that bad, but there's usually better ways to play. You can do Golden Necker Arrakis Swarm with her, and you pull her out with Golden Necker, and then the Golden Necker pulls out a special, and the special is an organic, and then that triggers her ability right away. That's pretty nice. You can do other triggers with her, so she's alright, but she usually doesn't see play compared to the other Tatterwing decks for Arrakis Swarm, and for the other Golden Necker decks, generally Necromancer's Tomes decks with like Deathwish are a little stronger, or Necromancer's Tome Relic decks. So I would say she's okay. King Trum, he is the top tier. Like, this is the reason you want to play Ogroids, right? You want to play King Trum. It's 1 power for every Ogroid in your deck. What was it, like just yesterday, someone's like, I'm going to play a 23 power King Trum, and they drop it down with Resilience. That is 46 points worth of value if that's not answered. 23 in that round and 23 in the next. Usually it's like 17 points, but still, the 17-point slam that has Resilience, That is amazing. And then you just eat it with Azrael, double up on the points. He is the big Ogroid deck guy, and he is very strong. And you must respect him if you're playing against Ogroid. You got to have a plan for this guy. You can't just let him drop it down last say and then carry it over. Next up, we have Koshei. He's also going up here in this tier. Getting a lot of top tiers today. So, Koshei deck, Koshei Renfri deck, regular old Koshei Haunt decks. It's super strong. He just gives you so much engine if he's not answered, especially with Courant Theorem. Get a second copy, play 2. You can get 100 something points, 200 points in a round, especially with Sir Scratch-A-Lot. I mean, you can do so much with this thing. It's really good. Laura is a definition of a niche card to me, though. So, she is only played in Tatterwing, and only because the Tatterwing setting her base power to 1 makes her kill herself if there's any frost out there and boost up all the drones. Now, that's good, but it's super niche, and then you play Gels and the Frost. Now, if Tatterwing Arachis Swarm was the most popular monsters deck, I wouldn't put her in niche. But at the moment, there's not that many Tatterwing players, so we'll just stick this down here, at least in my games. There's not that many, thankfully. So we'll put her in niche. That's her niche use. But that's the only use for her. She doesn't fit in regular Frost or anything. And if you're not in Frost, you're not playing Frost, you can't kill her, so that's annoying. Lilith's Omen, also a niche card. Lilith's Omen, like some decks play Lilith's Omen, but they're not really Lilith's Omen decks. Right? You play it as an option, and you bring out something like that, like either transforms or has a lot of like Morntard or something, or like it brings. We'll get the exact text for you guys for a second here because it does have some restrictions. So 2 non-neutrals without Veil, give them Doomed and Rupture. So there are uses for this thing. The Doomed and Rupture don't matter if it's not there anymore, right? Or if it has armor. So you can do stuff like that with it. It has some niche uses. Some decks want to play it. It's only got low base power. Some Arachis Queen triple decks will use it to pull out a Cave Troll because Cave Troll's got armor and then play something else, then purify them. I don't think that's good though. You don't see that very often. But usually you'll see this on something like Mamuna plus something else, or like it has uses and it's not bad in those decks, but it's staying a niche. Next up, we have Lord Riptide. Excellent, super strong top tier card. Stick him over here at the top because he's kind of all on his own because nothing else really goes with him. He's just your removal. You play him, he clashes, 10 damage to the highest enemy unit. He takes some damage back in return, whatever. It's super strong. It's better the less the opponent plays around it. If the opponent is playing around Lord Riptide, which most good opponents, or even reasonably good opponents will, it doesn't usually get as much value, but usually you can find even if he's not killing a super key engine, he's usually getting value, like a reasonable amount, right? Because the 2 armor blocks damage on him. So anything under like 12, anything 10 or less, the 2 armor is really helping you out there. And you're getting essentially 12 value for 9, of which is control. And it's kind of like Erendite, where essentially you're getting value from overkill by the points remaining on him. And if you're in Ogroids or even like Deathwish sometimes, you can get extra armor on him, and then he does play for like 20 points sometimes. He's super strong. Just excellent control card. Monsters don't have much control, which also like ratchets him up way up on this list. So I think he's going to stay in the excellent tier. We have Mamuna. Mamuna. Now, to be honest, I don't play much Fruits control or whatever, just because. We might do that pretty soon. Maybe it'll be our next Monsters deck. But she's definitely good. But that's kind of, I don't think you play her in much else. I have seen people not playing her in that deck, which I think that they all now do, pretty much. Everyone just plays the same deck at this point. But yeah, I think she's good. I wouldn't put her in excellent, I don't think, just because she doesn't, like she's a good play. Usually she eats a Griffin, pulls a Griffin out of the deck. You're essentially getting a 20-point play there, 21 if you play the Fruit Leader. We'll kind of leave that out. So usually about 20-point play for 12. That's good. And it's playing on 2 bodies, unlike this, without needing might like this does. So it's definitely good. I wouldn't say it's blowing me away, though, enough to put it in this top tier. Then we have Maruna. Miruna. I don't know how to say this. I think that's how you say it. So she is okay. She's going with Imperial Manticore. She's not a great card. But in the Deathwish decks with Golden Necker, you have a bunch of spare provisions, and this is the gold Deathwish cards you put in because you don't have stuff like Detlef. And sometimes she's good. Like you can steal Flying Redanian with it. You steal some 4 Persian Engine. You steal 4. I stole someone's Flying Redanian the other day. Just left. That's pretty funny. But this thing is the fact that it's random is annoying because they're playing tokens like Firesworn, like the Fireswarm Igor decks where they just keep making Fireswarm Fallen Knights over and over. It's annoying because they have little tokens. It doesn't target. It's not great. I just don't want to put this in good, even if it's in all of the. It's not even in all of the Golden Necker Deathwish decks, because we played a Ruin over this. We played Ruin and Sheetroll, and it was fine. So it's okay. Morvud. Kind of torn here. Morvud is extremely powerful. You play him last say, and he's really big. He isn't. You don't make like a Morvud deck though. No, he's going in the top tier. He's going up here. The reason we're sticking him up here is because so many decks like to play him. You can play this guy in Frost. You can play this guy in Renfri. Renfri Koshé. You can play this guy in Ogroids for their big guy. He has so many uses. I think he just goes up here and usually plays for like around usually like at least 17, usually more. And with the Renfri, you can double up on that. It's really good. And the fact is, like, even boosting your graveyard too. So we have Morntar. Morntar is good. Morntar is definitely a good card. Where do I want to put it? I don't see anything else that really goes with, so we'll stick it here at the end, but it's definitely not the worst of these. So Morntar's really strong. It consumes all the guys in your graveyard, so this is fantastic with Koshé decks because the Koshé and Caranthir Koshé spawn all the little Andrega larvas. They all come out eventually in round 2. They die. You win or either 2-0 them in round 2. You usually want to do this round 2. And in those decks. And then round 3, you're like, oh, look, I now have like 20 Andrega Larvas in my graveyard. Let's play Morntar for 25, 30 points. And that's pretty good. The other one that is really popular now is you play the Solano Harpy with like Troubadour and makes more Harpy eggs, and you're spawning more guys, and you're playing Morntar eating it. You're playing Renfri, you're pulling out like Highwaymen and making extra copies of the Trader guy and eat all those. It's just really good. Like, it's good, but not every deck wants to play it, and it's vulnerable to Tall Punish. So we'll leave it in here. Necromancer's Tome. On the other hand, this is going in the excellent tier. This is why you want to play Golden Necker in Monsters. Pretty much the reason. I'll just stick it up here. So Necromancer's Tome, it's like why you play Golden Necker. What else can I say about it? You play this thing with Golden Necker, and then when you play a unit that's a bronze, you summon a copy of it from your graveyard. So you play your stuff, Golden Necker. The special card it pulls is at the end. It's a tutoring card of some type. Then that plays a unit and immediately get value off of this. If you're playing Deathwish Golden Necker, you just click this thing's got a Zeal Order to trigger a unit's Deathwish, which no one really used until the last couple months. So you just play this, boom. Just hypothetically, you play Golden Necker, get this, some unit, I don't care, and then play your unit, play this. Your units like your specials like Last Wish. You play like a Harpy Egg. You play Harpy Egg, pulls Harpy Egg out of your graveyard. Click this thing's order and trigger one of the Harpy Eggs, and Harpy Egg gets eaten by a giant toad. It's amazing. Like, it's so much value. You play this in not just Deathwish too. You play this in like Relics. Boom! All of a sudden, you're bringing back Self Eaters. You're bringing back Gan Sands for super value. You're bringing back Witch Apprentices. This is a super strong card. Next up, we have our boy here. People are complaining I put this in the Frost deck recently, but he's not that bad. I'll put him in okay. So, Imlerith is kind of fine. Wait, you're not Imlerith. You're Imlerith. Am I just confused all of a sudden? Yeah, that was Imlerith. That was right before. I was playing this guy the other day. Anyway, he's the so he has what's it called? Dominance, deal 2 damage, otherwise you're dealing 1, which is kind of nice. It's alright as a proactive play. Nithral. He used to be Destroy an Artifact guy. Comment if you remember when he was Destroy an Artifact. So it's alright. Like, you play him, 2 damage a turn is pretty fine. Dominance isn't too hard to get for him. The fact that it's melee locked is a little annoying though, but Frost doesn't have too many proactive cards, so sometimes you want to play a more proactive Frost deck and you put him in. He's alright. I don't think he's the best Frost card, but he'll just hang out down here. Next up, we have Old Spear Tip, Asleep, and Old Spear Tip. They're okay options for specifically Ogroids. They're okay. Like, it's a pain that this thing takes damage and pulls out the old Spirit type without boosting its base power. It's really annoying. If this thing gets locked and it's not tutoring, like old Spirit type just playing for 11, for playing 12 for 11 is pretty bad. And then if you're not boosting the old Spirit type's base power, you don't get as good of an Ozrel. If this thing takes damage, it pulls out early, you feel bad. If you Carapace this and they hit it, you feel really bad. Well, specifically with like Assassination or a 6 damage card, Mastercrafted Spear. But they're okay, like they're options. I won't say they're niche or bad or anything. And then we have Orianna, which is good. Orianna's good. Massive engine payoff for vampires. If you get her going, you get her going. It's a lot of value. Super good if you've got like your Necrot sticking out there. But if in a short round, she's not great. And she's vulnerable to being moved. But overall, she is pretty good. We have Ozrel. He's also good. I wouldn't say niche just because there's a lot of decks that kind of want Ozrel. You have things like Regus Bloodlust nowadays. That's now down to a 17 base power. You can just play them and eat them. If you're playing something that wants the tempo, you can do that early. In Ogreoid, you can eat your King Trauma if he gets removed, although it usually gets heat waved, and then you can't do that, but there's other big cards. It just usually gets pretty good value, and on the off chance you're playing against someone playing Melusine, you can eat the Melusine and laugh at them because that feels really good. For you, not for them. So we have Parasite. Parasite's okay. It's not good. It's not great. I don't want to say Parasite's weak though, because 6 damage is pretty reasonable. The problem is Mastercrafted Spear as a comparison, right? Mastercrafted Spear is 6 with Overkill. This thing has the upside of being able to boost your own cards. It's not as good as like the upside of Giga Scorpion Decoction, for example, where the 6 damage can also be split across 2 guys, so you can like Andriga Larvas. But I don't want to say this is weak. Do you play this in Tatterwing? I don't play Tatterwing. I don't know. We played Hyperthin one time with it, which was kind of funny. But I think I would say. I think I'd say it's niche. Like the only thing that really wants to play this, I think, is Arrakis Swarm. I guess we'll put it okay. If you want 6 damage, you can take it. It's definitely at the bottom of the okay tier, though. I don't feel like putting it in weak because if this was buffed, it'd be really good. We have Penitent. He is weak, though. Penitent. The problem with Penitent is that when he brings out a 7 provision from your deck, you want it to be this guy over here, but that's not that good of value. It's just not. And then it's a Death Wish with Thrive again, like a Baya. You don't really want to be triggering things Thrive. It's just not good. Actually, I'm gonna put it in bad even. We have Plague Maiden now. She's actually pretty good now that she's at 9 provisions. Pretty recent buff. Makes her a consideration for things like Death Wish Golden Necker we were just talking about. And she could also make her own deck. You can do, well, yeah, we'll stick her up here. We'll put her up here because of the deck defining thing you can do with her. Is you can do an Arrakis Queen Plague Maiden deck and just go Plague Maiden and then have just spam out those poisons with Witch's Sabbath in round 2 or something. Yeah, just because of that deck, we'll put her up here, but she's not on the same power level as these other cards. Protoflighter is pretty good, actually. Where's the other vampire cards? There they are. He's pretty good. He can pay off your bleeding that's not going to get value. He puts out bleeding himself, so he's at least 10 for 8 if the bleeding goes off, if you have the bleeding on a unit and stick him out on it. And then all of a sudden he gets the value from that bleeding that's not normally going to go off. That's pretty nice. And unlike some status effects, it's pretty common for things to have too much bleeding for the round length. Especially if you're playing something like Orianna or you get the Plomards bonded off. So I think we'll put him up here and good. He might be okay, but I like him more than most people, I think. You. Hugo, I think you are. You're pretty low. You're gonna go with Penitent. I mean, the only time you see either of these is with each other, and they're both pretty bad at the moment. I guess you can see this in Arrakis Swarm to kill a drone. It's still 10 for 7. It's not good though, because you have to take off the point for it. These guys are bad at the moment. Queen of the Night though is good. It's Purify. It's got bleeding. Not much else to say about it. It's really good. If you're Devotion, it's your Purify card. If you're in Vampires, it's your Purify card and a bleeding option for extra tech. It's pretty good. Ratcatcher S is okay. I don't think she's good. Is there anything relics up here? She's pretty good. She's a 9 for 7, but she's an engine, and the engine's base power, so you can consume her later, bring her back. She's all right. The downside is if you ever get the under the Sabbath effect and they ping it like 3 times, you feel really bad. I'd say she's probably good because she makes it into the relic decks. Yes, our vampire payoff card. Where don't think we have anything else for vampires up here yet. All right. So Regis, super strong finisher. Usually he plays for about 20 points. Can be a little bit more, can be a little bit less, but usually he's like 20 points with 3 drain. Yeah, usually worth about 20, 22, something like that. Really strong. He's the payoff card for vampires. He's why you want to keep bleeding the opponent's units. You can double up on the power. If he ever does die, you can Ozrel him, and no one does that. But you do is you Renfree him, and Renfree doubles his power, base power. So he's really good. Ruin is niche. So Ruin is a niche card. He doesn't go into every Deathwish deck. He doesn't go into every Deathwish Golden Necker deck, but he's an option for those decks, and he can be quite good. Like if you're playing, you also can make a Ruin deck. I would say that's more on the Sheet Troll than the Ruin, and probably honestly more on the Necromancer's Tome if you're playing it. But we'll say that he's niche because he's pretty niche. Sheet Troll is also niche. I'm not gonna give her own. I'm not gonna put her in top tier like Plague Maiden and say she's deck defining. Yeah, I still don't like that. Let's put that back down there. I don't like that. No one plays that deck. We'll keep her here. Last minute changes. But yeah, Sheet Troll can be quite good in decks that want to eat a whole bunch of things like Lusty Warp, or in specifically there's some decks you can make with her and Necromancer's Tome where you're like bringing back Barbagazis and stuff and Vran Warriors. So she can be good, but she really needs a little niche spot there. Unfortunately, also for relics, I think at the moment She Who Knows is a bit weak. Like 10 with resilience is really nice, but she's tall. 13 provisions is really expensive. She gets answered. Stuff like this can get your base power higher and take away the resilience because you want it on her. The fact that's end of round's pretty good though. I think at the moment like she doesn't fit the meta too well. And I think she's like too vulnerable. We have Sir Scratch a lot. He is definitely going up in the top tier. Where's Koshé? Now, Sir Scratch, prior to the change to Doomed, would have been like way up the best card in Monsters, but he's still really good. Like you can bring this guy out. He's immune, so let's say have random damage or like a Maruna or something, he's gonna be safe. And then you just start replaying him, boosting your thrives. You don't have to replay him. You can just let him sit there, and then the opponent's doing your thrives for you, which is really nice. He's just super strong in the decks he wants to be in, which is the Koshé decks. And in those decks, he is amazing. And even in not the Koshé decks, like you can just play him with Thrive, like a Haunted Manor deck or something, if you're not want to play Koshé, and he's still really good. Tatterwing. You are the definition of a deck-defining card. I'll put you up there. It's a 25 with immunity. You make a deck because Tatterwing's so good, you just make a deck that doesn't lose points because of him. Her? I don't know. Tatterwing's amazing. Aparian Phantoms, where is Nithral? You guys are pretty similar. It's the same idea. If you want to play a more proactive Frost deck, you can put them in, but usually there's better cards to put in your Frost decks. And same thing with Beast. Beast is not for Frost, but like a lot of decks, sometimes you want him. The thing with Beast is it's 2-point a turn engine, but so is Witch Apprentice. You'd much rather have Witch Apprentice not be a gold, but then again, this guy can trigger his ability faster. Usually just play this with like Keltalis or something where you don't have many units, but I think he's okay. Honestly, it might be a bit weak, especially comparing to Witch Apprentice. But you do occasionally see him. I mean, I occasionally see these also. I'll put him down. What do I like better? It's like a first impressions type tier list. I'll put him here. Haunt. Haunt, despite being scenario, is not as good as the other Koshé decks because Renfree exists. People do play it though, including me, because I don't like Renfree. So I think this is pretty good card. I think I have to. No, we can't. I can't do it. It has to go down here. I was trying to argue it's pretty good, but Renfree's better. Like the Renfree version deck is better. The card is good though. It's pretty good, but it's expensive. Would you play this? No, people don't really play it. I've only seen like once. Yeah, we'll say this is okay. It's usually suboptimal because Renfree's better, but it's still pretty strong because it is a scenario. Naglfar, right up to the top tier. Where is Gels? Oh, there you are. So, Naglfar is your tutor, right? It finds the golds from your deck. It finds 2 random golds, you play one and stack the other. I mean, if you're in Devotion, it's your tutor card. If you're in Frost, for example, it's your tutor card. With Gels, if you're just have a lot of gold cards and need more tutors because you're playing V, it's your tutor card. And it's just pretty nice. Like, it's good. It's really strong to find whatever you want. It's played in a lot of different things, so it's going up here. Tyrnalia, we'll drop you in here. I don't want to put too much in the top row for Frost, but it's a really strong Frost card. You carry over on your Frost, which is really nice because you have excess Frost turns. You can play it the next round. It gives you an immediate point boost, usually 8 to 10 points based on how many bronzes are in your deck. That's pretty nice. It can spawn Red Riders. That's good value. Like, it's just got so much going for it, and it's resilience. I am almost tempted to put it up here, but I think we've already got enough Frost representation that I think it's not the reason you play Frost, but it's really good in there. Toad Prince. He's going to top tier alongside Lord Riptide. Again, not much control in monsters. He consumes a 4 power. 4 power is like a threshold. A lot of engines are 4 power. He consumes them. That's really nice. If he consumes a 4, 11 for 8. It's like, with control, that's pretty good value. Like, you don't want to point slam that, but that's pretty good value for controlling stuff. It's nice. And yeah, it's just really flexible. Tons and tons of decks just want to play this guy. So he's definitely going in here. We have Tugo. Brought it back. We're good. I wasn't sure if that would save. Where did he fall in here? I got really nervous for a second there. Where is our boy Tugo? I don't know where he is. Wherever he is not where he's saying necessarily. I was so nervous I broke the tier list there. Anyway, let's grab him. He, I think, gets to go in top tier because Triple Tugo is a really strong deck that people like to play. Wait, where the heck is he? Did he drop down to the bottom again? I don't know where he went. Check the ends of the rows. Anyway, I'll just look for him while I talk. So Tugo's pretty strong because if you get Tugo out there, what you want to do a lot of times is make 3 off Arrakis Queen. And then, well, there's 3 of them, and you're going to oh, there he is. Definitely going to be boosting the bottom guy of your deck. Not bottom guy, like the lowest unit on your board. Let's think of something else for a second there. And if you 3, you boost it by 3, and the fact that once they're all tied with Might, it's boosting all of the lowest units. Well, with 3 of them out, it's going to happen pretty fast. So, very strong there. And you can play him in Ogroids, it's fine. Unseen Elder is a good card. I wouldn't say it's... No, he's deck defining. He's deck defining for Devotion Vampires. Devotion Vampires isn't the best version of Vampires, but you can play him in non-Devotion Vampires too. He's still pretty good. He puts out that bleeding consistently for Flighters without you having to use leaders or anything. And it's pretty good. Like, he's a good, great Vampire card. You can also make decks around him with Witch's Sabbath, which is going to keep him up here. Varina is just like a good Vampire card. She's good. She's got the ability to block the opponents from boosting while they are bleeding, which is nice. She puts out 4 bleeding herself, which is nice for Flutters. It's reasonable value. Usually you can block something. The opponent typically has to get rid of her if they're boosting. V, the other definition of a deck-defining card. What do you say? You just keep consuming it. You play the probably least skill-intensive version of Gwent possible and just keep eating this thing every turn with a consume. And you play every tutor in existence to keep playing it. And then at the end of the game, it plays for like 30 points. And every time you consume it, it's like 25 points. Well, not every time, like later in the game. Yeah, that's what it is. Then we have Wispus Incantation, I think it is. Wispus, I think? No, Weavus. This is Wispus Incantation. Weavus. It's Wispus that pulls out of the deck. It's Wispus Tribute. Whatever. It's one of them. It's Incantation. I just call her Incantation when we're playing the game. Weavus Incantation. Let's call her Incantation most of the time. But yeah, she's niche. You can play her in Death Wish, but usually she gets her own deck. Her own deck's not really built around her. It's built around, well, to be honest, it's a pretty meme deck, so that's why it's so low down here. But you can just play her, and you can get multiples of her with Arrakis Queen, and then you play like Manticore, and every opponent unit just dies, and it's hilarious. Yeah, so she can do that. You can also play her in Death Wish. Just triggering your Death Wishes an extra time is pretty nice. If she was 9, I think she would definitely see play in Golden Neck or Death Wish, but she's a 10th version card, so she can't do that. But I think she's pretty niche. It's up or down there. Kind of on the same vein as Caranthier. Actually, now speaking of Whispus or Weavus incantation, we got Weavus and Whispus. So I'm not gonna put them in excellent. Although Whispus is the best. The 6 damage option is really good, but they're fine. Like the Crone Trio is fine for relics. You can play them, you can take them, you can put them back. Up to you. They've got some flexibility. 6 damage is nice on this thing's deploy. They're good value. I'll leave them here. They might be higher. They might be an okay, but I'm going to put them up here because I like them. And I'm going to kind of ignore the fact that you have to play Brewis. If you're not playing Brewis first, it feels really bad. Werecat is terrible, though. So, Werecat's got Deploy and Death Wish, deal everything on a row by 1. I think it's the opposite row. That's not the row punish you want. It's too expensive, too low impact, too low power, right? It's just not. That's not it. Were-Rat though is good. Like Were-Rat is good. It goes great with consume decks. He's automatically consuming for you. You can use it to spawn rats, which you can consume with like Glusty Warp or anything that wants row effects, and it's just pretty nice. Like automatically consuming without you having to take turns. Sometimes you want to drop this guy down. You got like 3 consume or 3 Deathwish cards to the right of him. Drop him down. The opponent looks at that and goes, "Well, shoot. Now I have to try and figure out how to stop this." But it does go really tall, which is one problem with it. But it's only 6 provisions, so it's not that bad. Like it's just pretty strong. It's a pretty good card. Right into top tier is this thing. I'll put it here. What's this? The Whispering Hillock. It's a tutor card. It tutors out of your deck a Deathwish card. You play it in all kinds of stuff. Dagon Deathwish plays it. Golden Necker Deathwish plays it. Anything with any Deathwish cards in it just plays it. All of the Arrakis Queen decks play it because it plays Arrakis Queen. Really strong. Kind of the same vein here. Go with the I'm not gonna do it. It's Whispus Tribute. Did I get it right? It plays an organic out of your deck. Every Tatterwing deck plays this. Some Deathwish decks play it to find like this, or some decks play it to find this thing, the Crimson Curse. Like there's some good organic cards. Every single Witch's South deck on the face of the planet plays it because it's organic. So I think it deserves to be up here. I just kind of put it next to this because it's also a tutor. Winter Queen is also really good. I don't think it deserves the excellent tier though, because we're not really rating these based on how strong their decks are. You're supposed to say next to this guy. But yeah, I think Winter Queen, it pulls itself out of the deck when you have 2 Frost. So kind of like Roach, it has a condition, pulls itself out. It's 4. Cheaper than Roach with an upside of Devotion. If you get the Frost out, it's going to get extra points. Really good. It's really good. Or leave my least favorite card in this faction for last. Let's see, we have Yaga. Now, people have been playing Yaga lately. I'm guessing someone made a video on it or a stream on it. Yaga is still weak, though. Do I say Yaga is meme? People have been playing it, and I've played it. Or is it niche? Let's think here. I'm gonna call Yaga niche. It's either niche or meme. Niche, meme, or bad. It's somewhere down here. But I have a soft spot for Yaga because it used to be that decks with 4 power guys were super common. The Sabbath, though, I mean, Alright, we're not going to take too much copium here. We're going to put him down here. He's probably down here. I can't justify putting this guy in niche. I can't justify it. Anyway, I won't put him in bad, though, because Yaga has some anti-meta possibilities. When the meta is a ton of high power 4 provision cards, you can drop Yaga on those and eat them. So, for example, Deathwish at the moment. If people are playing a lot of Deathwish, Solano Harpies, and consuming, they might have like a 10 power 4 provision guy down there. Drop Yaga, you eat that 22-point play with the threatening of maybe eating a 5 provision like a giant toad they consumed with for another 20-point play in a couple turns. It's really, you can also eat your own cards, but come on, you never want to do that with this thing. I'd say it's weak. Usually it's bad, but if there's a good meta for it, it can be okay-ish, and it's weak. It's going here. It probably deserves to be down here, to be honest, but I like him. Then we have, what's this guy? Oh, I just killed this thing in the Witcher board game the other day. What is this thing called? Ygritte. Ygritte. We're gonna say he's actually pretty okay. Like, he's not bad. If you want a big point slam guy, you can just play this thing, and he'll have like 9 armor, and usually 9 armor. If they're doing 9 damage, it's gonna take 2 cards or a Tall Punish, which is Tall Punish is fine on him. It's a good Osrel consume target. You can play him as an option if you want a big guy. The only consideration is Riga's Bloodlust. If you like Riga's Bloodlust, it's 2 more points, but it's got the downside potentials. You can Osrel this later. I think it's okay. Is Witch's Sabbath the most powerful monsters card in the game? I would argue yes. The reason why is it makes so many different decks with this card viable. The fact you bring stuff back, like why is Arrakis Queen up here? Because you bring back the copies with this thing. Why is Unseen Elder up here? Because you make a deck with it, you would bring back copies. Why is this up here? You bring it back with copies. You don't even have to make an Arrakis Queen deck. You can play like a big Ogreite deck and bring back a bunch of tall guys that way. You can bring back a Defender and a Keltalis. There's so many things you can do with Witch's Sabbath that don't even have to be a dedicated Witch's Sabbath deck. It's so strong. Like, you can do so much with this thing. In every deck you put it in, it defines the deck. So anyway, that is the Monsters Gold card tier list. That took a little longer than the Bronzes because there's more unique stuff here. Overall, am I happy with this? Let's just scan through it real quick here. All right, I think it's a... So we just scanned through everything here. I think there's only a couple things we're going to change. We're going to be try and be objective here, and the fact that these are played probably makes them in the good tier, even though I personally don't like them, and they're only played in Golden Necker because there's no other better options. But I think we'll just stick these guys at the end of this tier here for the moment. And the other one I think is I want to drop Glusty Warp down alongside Plague Maiden. You can make Glusty Warp decks, but they really aren't all about the Glusty Warp anymore. Use like about combos with She-Trolls or something. Let's stick her down here. I think I like that. I think I like that a little bit better. Let's do it like this. I think I like that a little better. Yeah, that's better. I feel better about that. And then that looks good to me. So that's the Monsters Golds tier list. Let me know what you guys think. Obviously, I did this pretty quickly, and there might be some things I would change if I came back to it later or earlier, and obviously Balance Councils change stuff, but let me know what you think. Are there anything you would change? Do you not value tutoring as highly as I do? Let me know. Do you also think this is the strongest Monsters card? Let me know. Hope you guys enjoyed, though, and we'll see you next time.
That'll be it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Make sure that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. And you can check out some more videos over here. And thanks for watching.